when I first got the diagnosis, because I come from the world of genomics, my initial thing was that I contact the people that are leading an initiative here in BC that's called the Personalized Oncogenomics Initiative, POG, POG. So the Personalized Oncogenomics is basically doing full genome sequencing. So the 3 billion letters of the genome, they read the 3 billion letters of your tumor, and they read the 3 billion letters of your blood and compare that and see what mutations are there. So this is basically, you get the entire book of, the entire reading of the encyclopedia of your tumor. And that's kind of the best of the best of the best. And when I asked, I remember, the specialist or the person that's working in that project told me, like, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is your tumor is too early. So you were catched, too early. Bad news, because I'm stage 2B, which is, I have a lump in my breast, I have a lymph nodes, but I don't have, the lump is not too big, and I don't have many lymph nodes. So with that, I say it's too early. That's the good news for you, because you're not, your tumor is not too advanced. Bad news is we cannot do the sequencing on your tumor, because we only sequence people that are stage 4. So good news, bad news. So going back to your question, Lester, so that's what you do in the tumor. And then you can also look at the genes in your blood. And that you don't need a sample of your tumor, but you need just a simple blood sample. And for that blood, you will look at what we call the hereditary cancer genes. So the genes you have in your body, in your constitutional, we call it constitutional DNA, and what you have in your body as genes that give you more susceptibility to uh, just have cancer. And those typically you inherit from your parents. They come and run in families, and that's why it's important for you to maybe know if there's other cancer cases in your family, and that will have implications also in your offspring, if you have kids or your nephews or your family overall, brothers, sisters, all that. So that in my case, here in Canada, I got the Oncotype DX, which is basically the profiling of the tumor. That was part of the standard of care. So I managed in a way, I started asking the oncologist, and I will answer your question, Susan, in a bit on how, what I recommend for patients and how to approach these. But I basically started asking the oncologist, and she told me, oh, you can enter a clinical trial. I signed, all the paperwork, enter a clinical trial, and got the profiling of my tumor with a test that's called Oncotype DX. But there are many others, Mama Print, others that have slightly different functions. But at the end, what they do is guide, refine your diagnosis and guide your treatment. In my case, um, just also, for the little story, the Oncotype DX, the score, when I was reading what is the score, how you classify that. Say if you got a score of 25 or less, you don't need chemotherapy. If you get a score of 25 or more, you need chemotherapy. So imagine you get a genetic test that guides your clinician, your oncologist, to decide if you need chemotherapy or not. So women that will have less than 25, forget, this is great. This is the best news ever. You don't need chemotherapy. You can go from surgery to radiotherapy, bang, bang, really. You don't have to go through all the hassle. And you save money, if we think about, save money to the healthcare system, but also save you as a patient all the side effects and horrible things that, chemotherapy is great. Yeah, kills your tumor, but it's also super hard on your body and your mind and everything. So having that opportunity to really save some women from that, I think is brilliant. In my case, my score, I just laugh because I was, life is what it is, but my score was 26. So
Oh,
not 25, not
no.
25, I was 26. And I got my test before I went to see the oncologist. And so I had time to reflect, and I was like thinking maybe, 26 is really close to 25, and maybe I will just go without chemotherapy. But sure enough, I went and my oncologist saying, no, I think we need to be, 100% here.
Yeah.
We're going to go with chemotherapy. It's 26. And we have other indications. Your lymph node was very big, whatever, many other, of course, because it is, nothing is interpreted, in isolation. Everything makes part of your whole story and your clinical story. And that's why also, when we think about, well, I'll get back to the patient empowerment, but I'll add one thing here, is that test, again, was critical to define if I have chemo or not. Bad news for me, I had to get chemotherapy. But then when I asked the doctor, can I get, as I call the Angelina Jolie test, the BRCA1, BRCA2, the hereditary cancer panel that tells me if this runs in my family, she basically saying, no, this is not covered by the healthcare system because you don't have any sisters, any close relatives, your mom or your aunts. Nobody in your family has breast cancer. You are, just a single case. So in that case, there is no indication, and the healthcare system will not cover the test for you. But me being, a scientist, a genomicist, I say, well, I really want to know that. She gave me the option to pay it out of pocket. So I enrolled and I paid, and I did it with a company actually in the US, which is quite sad because we have lots of capabilities here to do that. We
Hmm.
should be able to do the hereditary cancer panel in Canada. Why? And that's another debate that we can spend 1 hour on. But
Hmm.
yeah, I sent my sample to the US, got my results. Luckily, and good news, I didn't have any hereditary cancer genes, so no worries for my family. And it was good there. But in some cases, you have to navigate that piece of what is covered, what is not covered, and how you can try and get access. And one thing I would say for the patients, Susan, is that sometimes people get really scared and stressed because the complexity. Oh, what is this genomic profiling? What type of test? What do I need to get? And I always say, you don't need to be, you don't need to have a PhD. You don't need to be a genomicist. You just need to really, at a high level, be aware that they can do an analysis of the DNA of your tumor. They can do an analysis of the DNA of your blood, and that can help you really guide your diagnosis and your treatment.